Hi friends! This week we're going to dive into some more viral coloring techniques. We've done this a few times before and found some pretty cool techniques. But this time, since it's Pride Month and all, and my favorite color just happens to be all of the colors in a row, we're going to try all rainbow techniques. Are you ready? Let's go! So the first technique that I want to try seems to be called Rainbow Swirl. Essentially, it looks like we're going to split up a picture into rainbow slices. For this, I'm going to use this little Ironies book by my friend Melanie Mangold. She has some really cool circular pattern pages in here, and I think that that's going to work really well. I'm going to draw out the slices in swirly lines because I've seen a lot of those and thought it looked pretty cool. But making even slices, or even anything even, is not my strong suit. But I sketched them out anyway. I mean, you can't see them, but trust me, they were a mess. Then I pulled out alcohol markers in 5 shades of each color. I'm going to be using alcohol markers for most, if not all of these techniques, but I think most of them you could probably use lots of different mediums. Anyway, we're just going to go through and color each slice in a single color family. Basically a monochrome or single color challenge on each slice. I've never done one of those single color challenges, so I'm not sure what strategy most people use, but here is my plan. I'm going to start with the lightest shade of each color and go around the whole circle and then move on to the next lightest color and so on and so on. My thinking is that first, since they're the same shapes on both sides of the pattern, I can make sure that they are the same amount of dark. What do they call that? Value? All those arty terms confuse me. Tint, hue, value. Anyway, you get what I mean. All of the leaves are going to be the lightest color. The butterfly is going to be the second lightest, etc., etc. If I were to do all of the pink first and then move on to the orange, I would forget which shade I used for what. And maybe there are artists out there who are able to just eyeball it and make those choices, but I am not loosey-goosey enough for that. Also, I can really tell which colors I use a lot because they are super dead. And I made the mistake of flipping the marker tip around over the paper. Way to go, dipstick. Oh well, I'll fix that in a little bit. Like I said, I'm sure there are people who can do way cuter monochromatic things. I'm just doing the best that I can. As I'm getting to the darker colors, I'm getting a little bit worried about what I'm going to do with the background. But I think I have a plan. It might not be a good plan, but I do have a plan. I'm going to finish up all of the little sections, shading them and trying to give them some dimension, and making the outside nice and dark. Then I found a super light version of each color for the background. Some of them, the lightest that I had was a version of gray, but I still think it looks okay. I mean, I actually really like this, but here's the problem. For this swirly technique, we need to go over those lines that we penciled in with white. And I'm afraid that you won't be able to see it over these light colors. So we need to make some adjustments. Let's just burn this image into our memories in case I mess it up. Then I'm just going to go back through and darken some of the areas up. I do not have a plan for this, so if it looks bad, I take no credit. Of course, if it looks good, I meant to do that. So what do we think? Yay or nay? Now, the last step is we're going to take either a white gel pen or a paint marker. I'm going to try my gel pen, which has been warming up in my cleavage. Okay, maybe we're just going to use a paint pen because my gel pen didn't want to work. Then we're just going to go over the swirly lines that we drew with our pencil to make the color slices. Once that's done, we're going to add a ton of little dots to make it look more magical. And that's it. What do we think? Do we like it? Does it look poopy? Does it look magical? I can't tell. You tell me. Next, we're going to jump into this book by Creative Paula called It's the Little Things. And we're going to do a few different techniques that are kind of similar, or at least related. But the first one is this rainbow grayscale. I've seen this so many times and I've been dying to do it. We're going to start with a rainbow palette of alcohol markers. And to begin, we're just going to color some things rainbow. I think I'm going to start with the stars. I should have put a spare paper behind this, you ding dong. Back to the rainbows. I'm just making some rainbow stripes, and I'm not really blending this, but I am going fast enough that the marker hasn't fully dried, so it is sort of blending on its own. I think I want to do some rainbow paint. And I am going in actual Roy G. Biv order. I've seen people not do that, but it bothers me. I want it in order. Is this all the rainbow I want? No, I want this moon to be rainbow too. Would it be too much if I did their overalls in rainbow? I don't think so. Let's do it. They're like little workers installing rainbow. What did I do? That's not how a rainbow works. Well, we're just gonna have to go with it. Whoops. Don't look at him. Alright, I think that's enough rainbow. So the rest of the picture, we're just gonna use our grays. These are all of my cool toned grays. And we're gonna color all the rest of this in grayscale, which I've never done before. But it's essentially just another monochrome scheme, so let's see if I can do a better job this time. I'm just working from the lightest to the darkest gray and picking, I guess, what I think would be the lightest, which would be the bunnies. And then maybe the bucket is next, etc., etc. For large areas like the floor, the way that I keep the marker from getting streaky is that I always keep wet marker touching wet marker. So if you notice that I kind of do weird shapes as I color, it's because I'm trying to go back along my last stroke before the marker can dry out. It might seem really tempting to kind of jump around and do a blob here and a blob there, but if you let the edge dry, you're going to get a line when you put wet marker next to it. Patience is your buddy. For the wall, I'm going to start really light and then I'm going to add a bit of a pattern to it, like it's wallpaper. But first, I'm going to go back through and add shadows to everything. Now I can add this design on here. I'm not going to do anything too crazy, just some stripes and some trefoils. Yes, I looked the name of that shape up. Then, to hide the fact that I cannot do an even pattern to save my life, I'm going to add polka dots. That's going to make it look way more intentional. And that's the rainbow grayscale technique. What do you think? I kind of wish I put more rainbow on it, but I still really like it. For the next technique, we're staying in the same coloring book. And this is going to be sort of similar, but slightly different to the grayscale technique. This one is what they call rainbow glitter. Now, I've seen this done two ways. I've seen it where people leave the background completely white and just do the rainbow glitter on the lines. But I've also seen it where people do grayscale and then add the rainbow glitter. I think just to be a little extra, I want to try it with the grayscale. So again, I have all of my grays. I'm just gonna speed through this part because I'm just doing the same thing I did on the last page. I am not going to add shadows because we're not going to need them. Instead, we're going to take some paint markers and we're going to add rainbows around every single line. And I mean every single line. If you're more free-flowing and less precise than I am, you could probably just guesstimate how long each rainbow is going to be and do all of the pink and then all of the orange, etc. But I've never been accused of being a free-flowing gal. I'm actually pretty tightly wound most of the time. So I'm just jumping back and forth between colors to make my tiny little sections of rainbow. The thing that I think is really cool about this technique is that you can kind of do it on any page. Like, if you have a page that you don't really have an idea for, do this technique. And I do think that it would probably look good on pages that have like a medium amount of lines. You know, not something that's too simple or too complicated. You know, I have a few coloring books that are just like one big bold object in the middle of the page, and I think that that might be too simple, and you wouldn't really get enough rainbow. But if it's something crazy detailed, then the page is just going to be overflowed with rainbow. I think that this page is a good medium amount of lines. As you can hopefully see, I'm pretty much doing both sides of every single line. Now, when I'd gotten them all done, I did decide that I wanted some of the outlines to be just a little bit fatter. But I'm not going to make you watch that. So, you can see that I fattened up the rainbow highlight in the bigger areas like the background. I left the more detailed areas small. I am going to go back over the black lines because they got a little covered up, and I just want them to look nice and crisp. If you were to skip the grayscale part, or maybe just be really careful around the edges, you could do the rainbow parts in alcohol marker and it wouldn't cover up the outlines. Now, the last step is to add the glitter on the whole thing, just by adding little white dots and the occasional shiny star. So I'm just going to go through and do that on the whole thing. Also, if you notice that I'm holding my pointer finger kind of weird, I jammed it at jujitsu and it hurts. I didn't jam it doing anything cool or fun. I literally just went to grab someone's wrist with both of my hands and hit my own finger against my other hand. Alright, so that's this technique done. Oh my god, he's so cute. I love it. For this next technique, we're going to use another Creative Paula book, Loved. And we're going to do something called the Rainbow Glow technique, or sometimes it's called the Rainbow Highlights technique. This is also going to be kind of similar to the last two, but that's okay. So the first thing we're going to do is take a little pencil and we're going to sketch out some highlights based on our light source. And our light source is going to be this fire. So I'm kind of just going and sketching out where they would hit. I am using a light yellow pencil just so it's not as obvious, but you could use a regular pencil and just erase most of it. Then I'm going to take some rainbow alcohol markers. I'm going for more pastel ones this time, and I'm going to color the light source rainbow first. Then I'm going to go through and color all of the highlights that I drew. I'm just going to put down one color right after the other so that the marker is still wet and will blend a little bit. Otherwise, there isn't any rhyme or reason to where I'm putting them other than that they're in rainbow order. Once those are all done, I wanted to add just a little bit of extra fun glow, so I'm going to make these stars and moon glowy. It's kind of weird that all of these pictures I chose have stars in them. I didn't really mean to do that, but oh well. Now that that's all done, we're just going to color in the rest in grayscale. That should be hopefully pretty easy since I've done it twice now already. And then after that, I went through and added a few little highlights with a white paint pen. And this one is done. I love this one. It looks so cool. I actually love all three of these techniques. They came out so neat looking. Alright, the next technique that we're going to do, they call the Holographic Sticker technique. We'll see about that. Now, since this is going to look like a sticker, I'm going to pick a page with some smaller individual pictures. This is still in Paula's book, Loved. And we don't really need to worry about the individual parts, so it actually doesn't really matter which small picture we do. So I'm just going to do this middle one. Now, the first thing that we need to do is outline the whole thing, like it's a sticker. And that pen is dead. You know what? Fine. We're just going to start with a pencil and deal with lining that later. Then we're going to use some rainbow colors, very saturated ones, to color sections all across the sticker. I am following a tutorial for this one, which I'll link in the description box. Now once those sections are done, I'm going to use a white paint marker to add dots everywhere as the sparkle. Then we're going to use lighter shades of each of the rainbow colors here and add more sparkle dots. We're basically covering this in glitter dots. I'm just trusting the process because so far, I don't think that looks hollow at all. Alright, now with an actually working black fine liner, I'm going to go back over the outline. It's going to be a little thick because I messed it up. Next, we need some white highlights. And I'm just going to make a line with a white paint marker and then smudge over it with my finger. Then we'll add a few little sparkly guys here and there. And last, we need to add a shadow with a gray marker. Ooh, that is way too dark. Okay. We're going to try this again. We're going to start with the outline, then the colors, which I'm going to lighten a few of them just a bit. Then all of our white dots, all of our light colored dots, then the white highlights, go around the outline to redefine it, and last, a not too dark shadow. Does it look like a sticker? Like a holographic sticker? I don't know. Alright, while we're on this page, let's try one last technique that I saw, which was a Lisa Frank inspired rainbow leopard print. We're just going to move over to this little mushroom right here. This might be kind of a weird style for a mushroom, but he's already here, so he's getting a makeover too. First, we're going to make some rainbow stripes all the way around. They're not really circles, but we're working our way into the center. And since I'm working while the marker's still wet, they're blending a little bit. Then we're going to take some paint markers and draw all the little cheetah spots. And I'm starting with blue over pink for a nice contrast, and then just working my way in. Cheetah spots are basically just little blobbies and dots. Then I'm going to take a black paint marker and draw outlines around the spots. I'm barely touching the marker to the paper so that the outlines look really broken up and stuttery. Oh my god, he's so cute. I'm gonna fix his outline though, because now the black paint pen looks darker than his outlines. So I'm just gonna go back over that. And oh, he's amazing. That was so easy. I wanna do this on everything now. So that's all of the techniques that I had time for this week. I have no idea how people come up with these, but I love trying them out. It's so cool seeing how simple it can actually be to create these really neat effects. What did you think? Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.